Welcome to the seventh session of Samkhya101, an introduction to Samkhya. I am switching on my PowerPoint file. Yeah, this is our title slide. We are in the seventh session. Let us have a quick review of what we discussed last time when we covered statements 52nd to 66th in the first chapter. Basically, we were talking about purpose of creation. And to get to know the creation well, we studied three evidences of Kapil, what is called Praman, namely Pratyaksh, which is direct perception, Anuman is inference, and Shabd is testimony of somebody who has the correct knowledge. Then we discussed more in Pratyaksh, the direct perception mode of evidence, where for a layperson it is our five senses being knowledge from outside world, which are about gross objects. And then within that framework, Kapil is adding what is happening to accomplished yogis in their deep meditative state when they can experience subtle objects that are made of fine particles. So if you remember the schematic diagram, if I could switch to the other slide, going to a previous session. Yes, this was the, let me, I am just going to another slide of, which we have seen previously in the session number 5. So the layperson is able to perceive through his five senses the objects that are made of five gross elements. But yogis can also get to know about these inner particles which are not amenable to our five senses. But still all that is grouped together as pratyaksh, as direct perception. The common denominator for the yogis about these subtle elements and about the layperson gaining knowledge made of five gross elements, the common denominator is the knowledge appears on our buddhi, on our chitta, namely this particle. This is our instrument. So the direct perception mode of evidence is that we gather knowledge right here that may be coming through the headline for the layperson about these five gross elements or objects made of these five gross elements. But for the yogis, in Sampajñat Samadhi, what Patanjali calls in his Yoga treatise, yogis get the knowledge on the same instrument, but that is about these subtle particles, subtle instruments. Let me go back to that slide of the sorry, I have to do the stop sharing. Go back to the webinar room. Again, do the screen share. And again, come to the current slide. Yeah. Okay. So we were discussing Pratyaksha. I should put an A here, Pratyaksha. Pratyaksha is the direct perception for yogis about subtle element and for the layperson about gross objects. Then Kapil is adding, however, even yogis cannot perceive what is called Ishwar, that infinite consciousness, for two reasons. Firstly, it is not made of matter because direct perception is possible for objects that are made of matter, namely Prakriti. Whether they are subtle or gross, the truth is they are made of matter. And Ishwar is not made of matter. Ishwar is indeed another Purush. And indirectly, not indirectly, I will say concurrently, he's saying, Kapil is saying that Ishwar can also not be the material cause of the universe. And then he said he has a role to play in creating this universe. How does he interact with particles, matter? He gives an analogy the way a magnet pulls an iron piece. So, though there is a distance, though iron piece is different from magnet, yet magnet is able to pull it towards itself. So, Ishwar is not material power, cause of the universe, is not matter by itself, but it can become the prime mover of the matter. The like a magnet can cause a piece of iron to move. So that remarks he has made about Pratyaksh Praman, the direct perception, and also about Ishwar and it not being the material cause, and it is an efficient cause only. Then he adds on, for that purpose, in this whole universe, there are a number of objects made by human beings, animals, etc., birds, and all that. So he adds that not only Ishwa is the efficient cause, even tiny souls are also efficient cause of many material objects in the universe. Now, this is action oriented. When we are efficient cause, like a carpenter is an efficient cause for a wooden chair, whereas wood is its material cause. And in the process, carpenter acts upon wood. That is an action, that is an effort. Now, Kapil is branching out, making a reference to tiny souls. They are not only making an effort, causing an action, they are knower too. They gain knowledge also about objects in the world. And for that knowledge to be correct, we need to have a framework of evidences. So they are knower too, besides being doer. Then there is a question raised by the layman that in day-to-day life we say our mind is functioning as if my mind is the reservoir of knowledge. My mind has all the skills, has gathered all these skills, and I am able to act upon the wood, etc. So the knowledge and all the skills are contained in my mind. Does it not make my mind as the efficient cause? Then Kapil is again making a remark. Mind is able to do it because of its proximity to the soul. So actually, the soul is the agent. Like a car is moving, you can say the car is moving, but the car is not acting independently. It's because there is a human conscious driver. He is making the car move. So he is the cause of the movement of the car. He is the essential, efficient cause for the car to move. Without him, the car would not move. In the same manner, the mind is an organ, is an instrument for the soul. It is the soul that is driving the mind, and the mind seems to be doing all this because of its proximity to the soul. And here he gave an instance of an iron ball in a red hot furnace. So when an iron ball is put in the red hot furnace, after some time that also becomes red hot. So as if the furnace is for the soul, that piece of iron ball is the mind. And when mind is in close proximity of the soul, it is as if the chain is functional and mind does what the soul would desire, what soul would. So all the powers of my soul are being transmitted to the mind. They are not their own. Mind's power is not of its own. It is able to function because of its close proximity to the soul. These were the ideas we had discussed in the previous session. Now I am moving on. It is 1.67 and 67, 68. There is a subtitle, subsection, which the question is why we need to discuss these evidences. So in 1.67, Kapil gives a response, Ubhay Siddhi Pramanat Tad Updeshah. The purpose of discussion on Praman, on evidence, is to help us know both the entities, Purush and Prakriti. Ubhay Siddhi. Ubhay is for both the entities. If we wish to know Purush and Prakriti properly, we have to have a framework of logic, and that is what is the purpose. Pramanat Tad Updesha, that's why he is teaching us. We can acquire their correct knowledge only from the correct evidences applied correctly. So that is the purpose of our discussion on evidences so that we can get to know Purush and Prakriti. These are the basic primary entities in the universe, and we finally want to gather their discriminatory experiential knowledge. So before that, we have to make it quite logically sound that they do exist in their form, and that I will be able to get to know them in a discriminatory sense, in an experiential sense, in a proper manner. If all that is possible, then only one is the task it is worth doing. And that is what Kapil is trying to convince us. 1.68 is saying, Samanyato Drishtad Ubhay Siddhi. Inference lead us to them. Because today we don't know Purush and Prakriti. But by inference, we can get to them. And even if we want to make an inference, we ought to know the mechanism, the logical framework of evidences. And we are not just cooking it up. There is enough prima facie reason to conjecture that Purush and Prakriti exist. And that is what he is saying. It is commonly seen, samanyato deshta, ubhay siddhi. It is when you look around the world, there are two definite kinds of objects. All these material things, air, water, mountain, rivers, and so many things that lack consciousness. And there are a lot of things like human beings, animals, birds, who can feel the pleasure and pain, dukh and sukh and dukh, etc. They are sentient, conscious beings. So it is so obvious in the universe that is clearly pointing to two entities, namely Purush and Prakriti. Prakriti is raw matter. Out of that, all this universe is created, at least the visible universe, which is amenable to our senses. And then there is something like consciousness. So he's saying, indeed, they must be existing. Otherwise, how could this world could come into being? And to get to know them in a correct manner, we need to have this logical framework. Then there is a section of three in statement 69 to 72 about bhog. The technical term is bhog. Bhog is to sense, to feel the life experience. Whenever something comes, gets, appears on my buddhi, on my chitta, and the soul, the observer, becomes aware of it, then this is incoming knowledge. But once I get to know it, it leaves an effect on me, on the soul, because I am a conscious being. And it causes sometimes pleasure or pain. That feeling of experiencing that feeling of pleasure or pain is my experience. The Patanjali is using the word bhog. Kapil is also using the word bhog for that. 1.69 is chit avsanu bhoga. Chit here is not chit. This is chit of Chetan, consciousness, which is the soul. So the information going up to the point of buddhi or chitta and then getting registered to the soul, the owner of the buddhi. He is the owner. When it gets registered to the soul, then it is called bhog. Otherwise, it is not bhog. Because that soul is the entity that can really experience that event, what is happening, what has been brought to him by buddhi. Chid avsano bhoga. That was 1.69. Translation is experience, bhog, ends up with a conscious entity, namely the soul. And here the word is chit. Chit is for chetana, the consciousness. And this chit, the word chit, conscious entity, I could say here. Kapil is using the word chit. So this is chit here. And I am, by parenthetically putting these terms, I am trying to tell my students not to be confused with this chit as chitta. This chit is another term which Patanjali uses often for buddhi. So this is chit and this is chitta. Here in 1.69 it was chid avasano bhoga. So the experience getting registered up to that chit is my bhog. I have felt it, the pleasure or pain of that experience. 1.70 akartu api falopabhogo annadyavat. Now somebody is saying this whole universe is made by Ishwar, but why the experiences are felt by us, the tiny souls? So this is articulated in 1.70. This is a doubt being raised by the layperson. If Ishwar is the efficient cause, as we had seen in the last week's session, then why tiny souls should experience the events? Then there is in the later part, Kapil is offering the answer also. Of course, in the world it happens. A farmer's efforts give rise to food grains eaten by others. The effort is made by farmer, but the resultant produce is enjoyed by many other beings. So why? So Kapil is asked, is trying to tell the layperson, your doubt is doesn't have a locus standi. It shouldn't have been there because you do see in the world somebody carpenter made a chair, but chair is enjoyed by somebody else. So what is wrong if Ishwar created this universe and if it is enjoyed by tiny soul? What is the problem? There should not be a problem. But then, after this mild rebuke by Kapil, he gives a more philosophical reason in 1.71. He says, Avivekadva tat siddhe katu phalavagama. Now he offers exact cause of it. why we tiny souls go through all these kind of life experiences that are full of mix of pleasure and pain. And his book started with where he guaranteed we can lead a life void of pain, absolutely void of pain. So that is the objective of his book. So that's where we are. So now he's trying to say that actually the bhog, the experiences of life, is felt by we tiny souls because of avivek. The avivek is absence of discriminatory knowledge, that is kind of ignorance. We are in a kind of a darkness because we are going through, there is an inner darkness within us. We go through the bhog. So that is the actual cause of it. Then in 1.72 he says, no bhayam cha tattvakyane. Once discriminatory knowledge of Purush and Prakriti is attained, then avivek will disappear. That lack of discriminatory knowledge, that inner darkness will disappear, and then there is no consequential karma. Then, if there is no inner darkness, then we don't go after the efforts, worldly efforts to acquire more and more objects, which is what gives rise to the rewards of our karma. And that is what is responsible for all these experience, the bhog. So the bhog is coming because of the rewards of the karma, and karma we are performing because of inner darkness, and that inner darkness will be vanishing if there is discriminatory knowledge. So that is Kapil's line of thinking in 1.72. What is the cause of bhog and how that can be gotten rid of? Now, in the next three slides, I am looking at six statements from 73 to 78, and they are related to Prakriti, the nature of raw material cause out of which Ishwar has created the universe. So let's look at it. Vishaya avishaya api ati duya hanopadanabhyam indriyasya. No, that was, yes, that is 1.73. I am reading Vishay as well as Avishay. Let me read the translation first because now we are going into evidence. How can we get to know Prakriti? And then he's saying, it is not proper to say that an object doesn't exist because it is imperceptible. So just because something is imperceptible, it doesn't mean that object doesn't exist, because that imperceptibility may be due to many factors. So he is offering four factors. It could be too far, like a bird is deep in the sky and is not visible to us. It's a long distance, so the object has become so small to our retina that it is impossible to recognize it. Or it is too close to my eyes, such as eye coal. If I apply eye mascara and some kind of that black pencil on my eyes, that is not visible to me because it is so close to my eyes. Sometimes there is a deficiency in sense organ, say blindness. If somebody is blind, you cannot see an object, though the object exists in front of you. And sometimes there may be obstacles between you and the object. Say there is a wall. So I cannot see so many objects that are behind this wall. So he's offering four possible factors that an object may be existing, but simply because it is not perceptible to you, you cannot deny its existence. So he's building up that Prakriti does exist in its raw form. Just because you cannot see the atomic particles in the very raw form, you cannot deny its existence. So he's talking ab initio, he's making us think that just because my five sides, five organs, senses, they cannot perceive an object, it doesn't mean that object doesn't exist. He's building a ground for Prakriti now. Because Prakriti is, for a layperson, Prakriti doesn't exist because it is not perceptible. Then he is offering more philosophical now, 1.74, Sokshmya tad anupalabdhi. Prakriti is so fine particles, it cannot be perceptible, it cannot be deciphered by human beings. The primary cause of the universe consists of tiniest particles, and hence Prakriti cannot be perceived by our sense organs. So we cannot get to know in a routine manner on our buddhi chitta. 1.75, Kaya darshanat tad uplabdhe. In previously there was anuplabdhi. You cannot be aware of it. But then he says, Kaya darshanat. Kaya is the effect. Karan is cause. Kaya darshanat. Seeing its effect can make you aware of it. So the primary cause of the universe consists of, 1.75 I was reading. Its effects point towards its existence. Like, we see many effects, and then like we have seen the rain and the clouds. So if I am seeing the rain, I make, which is an effect, cause is the cloud, I make an inference that clouds do exist up in the sky when it is raining. Though I was not able to see the clouds from my window, but we do make such an inference. So from making an inference about a cause, from its effect, help us get to know the cause, and in the same manner, the effects of Prakriti would lead us to know about Prakriti. Going forward in the same section, 1.76, Vadi vi pratipatte tad siddhi iti chet. Chet is means if you say like that. So as if Kapil himself is encouraging. Kapil himself is encouraging somebody that yes, you could make this doubt, you could make this raise this doubt. Session of Samkhya 101, an introduction to Samkhya. So I am switching on my PowerPoint file. Yeah. So I was at 1.76. Sorry, there was an interruption on my phone. Vadi vipratipattestadisiddhi iti chet. So there is a doubt being raised by a layperson, and that Kapil himself is articulating it. Let's read it. But many people contradict existence of Prakriti because as we hear all kinds of people saying many things, many people say Ishwar is the material cause. Somebody says universe exists by its innate nature. That's the way it is. That's the way sun is there, earth is there, rivers, mountains, plants come on, and this is what it happens by its own nature. Its existence is without cause. It is causeless. The universe as it is just happens to be there. Or material particles are primary cause, like the buddhi, ahankar, five subtle elements. Then why should one accept Prakriti as the primary material cause of the universe? So when people have all kinds of other ideas, why one has to go after a particular ensemble, I will say. What is it? Prakriti is ensemble of all the particles when sattva, rajas, tamas are in equilibrium, undisturbed. So there is an ocean of those tiniest particles, which we don't know. We can never know that. But he is insisting that must be there as the primary cause later transformations, creations made out of it. 1.77 now. तथापि एकतया दृष्ट्या एकतया सिद्धे न अपलापः. Now he's saying there is a common ground between Kapil and between all the others people. What is the common ground? Common ground is law of cause and effect. Every sensible, intelligent human being does say that there must be a cause or any effect. So if we go down this ladder, this sequence from every effect to their cause, every cause, and that again analyzing what are its possible cause, Kapil is confident we will end up at package. So what he is saying is common ground is the law of cause and effect. Thus, it is indisputable that the effect points to a cause. Prakriti being the primary cause is not an imaginary speculation. Na apalapa. Na apalapa means it is not wrong to say like that. Prakriti is could be a viable speculation. It is not yet proven, but he is trying to convince us it is worth knowing what Prakriti is. For that, he must establish as if such a thing must be existing. So, and it's worth exploring. Finally, he says in 1.78, Ti vidvyodha papattescha. This is his very strong final argument he's making. Let me read his translation. If Prakriti with three gunas, namely Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, is not accepted as the primary cause, then it would be impossible to explain the diversity seen in objects and experiences that have three primary modes. There are two things. One is external objects in the external world. They have all kinds of multiplicities. And then in our buddhi itself, where all these objects end up, they leave and they come with an image, and that image causes a bhog to us, an experience, and that experiences are of infinite nature, and there is a huge multiplicity in that. Somebody is happy, somebody is sad, somebody is tired, somebody is sleeping, somebody is fully alert. All those multiplicities are the minimum. Three strands have to be there, like three minimum primary colors have to be there to give rise to infinite colors. In the same manner, this whole diversity in the world and diversity of our experiences have to come from minimum three strands. And those three strands are going through all kinds of fluctuations. That is why we have all kinds of experiences. And then there must be another primary cause where these three strands are in equilibrium. That is what he is arguing. There must be something beyond my buddhi which is capable of making me go through multitude of all these experiences. Made of matter, it's a superfine principle, but that must also be made of something still finer than that, that he calls as Prakriti, where Ti guna means Ti with Vyodha Papattescha, because these three kinds of strands give rise to all that, and that can be explained only if there is something like Prakriti as its primary cause. Let me read it again fully. Prakriti with three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, is not accepted as the primary cause, then it would be impossible to explain the diversity seen in objects and experiences that have three primary modes: pleasure, pain, and dormancy. Ishwar or Purush of we tiny souls, etc., lack multiplicity. We are just what we are, untransformed. Ishwar also goes through no transformation. Therefore, it cannot explain the diversity seen in the world. So, besides Purush, the consciousness, there must be Prakriti. This is what he has argued. Now there is a long section which is from 79 to 102. It's called as Satkayavad, and that is a short time, but I will try my best to complete it. And I have broken into some smaller sections. So Satkayavad is Kapil's philosophy, which is basically interplay of cause and effect. So there is a cause that gives rise to effect, and if you see an effect that points towards its cause. Any effect has a definite cause. As you cannot make a piece of cloth from wood. You can make a chair out of wood, but not a piece of cloth. So there is a chair is the wooden chair is an effect, wood is a cause, and that is a definite cause. So there is all these relationships are discussed in what is called Satkaya Vad. Vad is something like a suffix of ism, Kaya is effect, Sat is existent. So any effect that exists has something more that exists in its cause, and that analysis is called Satkaya Vad. So let's begin it. In 79 and 80, he is talking about there has to be a cause for any effect. So 1.79 is na asat utpado nishingvat. Just as humans have no horns, this is something non-existent. If something is not non-existent, that is non-existent. But other than that, if things exist, that is what is being going to be analyzed. What doesn't exist and doesn't have a cause, as simple as that. Just as humans have no horns, nothing is born out of nothing. Na asat means non-existent. Utpado, non-existent cannot give rise to anything which can which can bear the characteristics of existence. So existence is a characteristic. If there is nothing, nothing means nothing, no thing. Nothing is means non-existence. Now that non-existence cannot give rise to anything. So what is non-existent never comes into existence. If something is born, now this is my corollary, it was not necessary. If something is born, then it must be born out of something. But his original statement is merely talking about na asat, non-existence. Non-existence cannot give rise to utpad means giving birth to anything. Like human beings have no horns, that's it. It doesn't exist. 1.80 is upadana niyamadu. Now niyam means there is a definite rule. Upadan means raw material. There has to be some raw material to make anything. So that is a general rule we see in the world. Whenever a human being wants to construct something, make something, create something, it is created out of something. A carpenter makes a chair out of wood. A painter makes a painting out of a canvas and oil paint and so many brushes and so many things are there. So anything is made out of something. So a definite material is required to produce a specific thing, such as now we are just looking at some possibilities. Cotton wool for a fabric, wood for a table, wheat flour for bread, clay for a pitcher, etc. It can be said that the fabric existed in a subtle form in cotton wool, and it did not exist in wood, soil, wheat, etc. Thus, a definite material cause is necessary to give rise to an effect that is called Satkayavad. And that's what is statement specific cause. It is just not that anything can become a cause of an effect. So 1.81 is saying Sarvatra means everywhere, Sarvada at all times, Sarv Asambhava. Sarv means all. You cannot make anything cannot produce thing all the times. You just cannot have one cause and make all kinds of effects. Definite correspondence that a particular material cause gives rise to a particular effect. There is a correspondence between cause and effect. One tasya sakya karanat. Existent sat is brought out from what is existent and cannot be brought out of non-existent. The cause has certain strength, certain specific power to give rise to that specific effect. So that is specificity of a cause and effect. 1.83 is Karana Bhavacha. The effect exists in the cause itself and not elsewhere. Now he is saying Karana is the cause, Bhav is that existence. The effect we are talking about actually exists within the cause and it is brought out by certain effort we make it. So the effect exists in the cause itself and not elsewhere. The plant exists in the seed, though it gets produced later in favorable circumstances and can never appear without a seed. So a cause is very absolutely necessary for an effect. And now we have gone a few steps further where we say for a given effect, there has to be a specific cause, not any other cause, because there is a definite relationship between a cause and the effect. We move on to 84, 85. Now there is a discussion whether an effect is birth altogether, born altogether new, blossoms out of the cause. So there is a semantics, but let us look at it. 1.84 is saying na bhave bhav yoga chet. Chet is if you say like that, it is pointed out that if the effect already exists, say the layperson makes a doubt, because that's what Kapil said. The effect is already there in the cause. Now the layperson is picking on that point as a, and he's pointing to Kapil. If you say the effect already exists within the cause, then it is not proper to talk about birth of the effect. For example, if the fabric is already in the cotton wool, that's what Kapil said in previous statement. The effect is already in the cause. Well, he was trying to say that there is a fabric is an effect and it has a specific cause, namely cotton wool. It cannot be coming out of wood or it cannot be coming out of wheat and so on and so forth. So he is saying the specificity of the cause. He went a step further saying that as if the effect is already in the cause. Now when he has said that effect is already in the cause, now the layperson is raising a doubt. If you say effect is already in the cause, then why do we make an effect? Why do we make all kinds of effort to bring out the effect from the cause? So that's what the doubt is being raised in 1.84. If the effect already exists within the cause, then it is not proper to talk about birth of the effect because it's already there in the cause. Now, to this, Kapil will clarify in 1.85. Na, na meaning no, what you have said is not true. Abhivyakti nibandhana vyavhara avyavhara. 1.85 is saying the above objection is not tenable, not acceptable, because emphasis, when we say that fabric is made out of cotton wool, the emphasis is on formal appearance of the effect from the cause. It is not that in worldly sense we say that a fabric is produced from cotton wool when the former already existed in the latter. If such a process didn't exist, then we would be doing nothing, such as no weaver is required in the world in the given instance. There is a process is still required. Fabric does exist in the cotton wool, but yet it has to be acted upon in a particular manner by a person with particular skill. He is called as weaver, and then he gives birth to that. So, of course, this is true in a philosophical sense. Fabric is contained, does exist in the cotton wool. That is why cotton wool can give rise to a fabric, the birth of a fabric. If you call it birth or mere appearance, all this is a matter of semantics, but definitely there is a process. And that process is what is the job of a viewer. That is his trade, he does it. Now, the similar argument is followed in 1.86, but in reverse direction. 1.86 is Nasha Karan Laya, because the layperson will say, once the fabric is made, somewhere out of wear and tear, where does it go? So before the layman could have raised this objection or raised a doubt or a question, Kapil is offering the processes that happen afterwards also. Because we are aware of the fact in the world, human beings create something, but that particular object doesn't stay as it is. It goes through decay and degradation, and then it is of no use at one point of time that we are familiar with. We build a big house, but if you just don't attend to it, if you revisit it 5 years later, it has gone through some decay. And then 1,000 years later, nobody sees the sign of that house, isn't it? So these things we are familiar with. So certain things, human beings' effort transforms a cause into an effect, but then that effect also goes through certain natural transformation that it gets lost. It is no more visible in its form that human being made it appear originally. So that is talking about Nasha. Nasha is distraction, but he's saying it is not absolute distraction. It is Karana Laya. Karan is cause. It goes back to its cause. So cotton wool is acted upon by a human being to give rise to an effect of fabric, and after some 10 years, naturally it happens that that piece of fabric goes back where it came from. This English translation 1.86. We accept that the effect existed in the cause, but what about the effect disappearing after a length of time, such as the picture gets broken, the fabric is no more usable after wear and tear. So that is in the mind of the layman. To that, Kapil is answering, the so-called annihilation is actually the effect returning to its cause where it came from. So Nasha is Karan Laya. Thus an effect appears from its causal form where it existed before its formal appearance, and after a length of time, when it ceases to exist in its effect form, it continues to exist in its causal form. Thus there never is non-existent. It's not. And in scientific field, we are aware of what is called law of conservation of mass. The mass goes through transformation. Matter goes through all kinds of transformation. But it is not that it absolutely becomes non-existent. It continues to exist. So that is very well known, and that's what Kapil is stating. But now, with a greater clarity, he takes an example of a seed and plant, because we know a seed is a cause, plant is an effect, and then from the plant we get more seeds. So as if they're back to square one. So he is taking up that as an example in 1.87. Parampayato Anveshana Bijankur Vata. Bij is seed, Ankur is a germinated kernel. So a seed becomes a plant that gives rise to seed. Their never is non-existent. There is definite sequence in transformation. Parampayato means it is the tradition. This is the life story. We see everything. So whether it is in water, it becomes water vapor, becomes clouds. Everything is cyclic. So this is what is pointed out by Kapil at this stage. Then 1.88 saying, Utpattivat va adosha. Should we say, 1.8, should we say the effect takes birth from its cause or it merely appears from its cause? The difference is in semantics. While the term birth seems to indicate as if the effect didn't exist in the cause and has been created afresh, the term appears indicates as if the effect was residing in the cause and has now become visible. All this is a matter of semantics, but the fact of the matter is indisputable. 1.89. Now he's talking about what is the essential nature of an effect. What is cause and effect? We have seen examples like cotton wool and a fabric, where cotton wool is an cause, fabric is an effect. And then we have seen also seed and plant gives rise to production of other seeds. So all these terminology we have seen. Now he is systematizing it, saying in effect will have certain essential characteristics. There are five of them. Let's see. An effect. Let me read the original first. 1.89. Hetu mat anityam sakyam anekam ashritam lingam. So the effect is given a term here, not as kaya now. Here it is the word is linga, which is very unusual because he has just now discussed the nasha kaya and laya. So I just want to make a reference to this word lean and ga. Lean means if a worldly object gets to decay and goes back to its own process. So lean is go. Let me say this word ga. Ga is for go, gaman, going back. Lean is where you are going back where you came from. So this is the story about a effect. An effect comes from its cause and goes back to its cause. That is why the word ling is an appropriate word for an effect. So, in Sanskrit, the word itself carries the meaning of itself. So, if you know the roots and what are their etymological meanings, then you will be able to know the meaning of the word itself. So, here the word was lingam. So, ling is lean is going back, ga is to go, going back where? To the cause where you came from. So any effect goes back to its cause. So of course, the word ling is for an effect. What are its characteristics? Hetuman, it cannot be causeless. Every effect is born out of a cause. Anitya, this is non-eternal. Because it took birth at one time, it came into existence at one time. So we know it. If somebody takes birth, it will die also. If somebody appeared at one time, it will disappear also. So that makes it non-eternal. Sakriya, which is active, because there is something always happening. A chair is standing there, but scientist knows that it's the molecules and atoms within it are moving around. They are just in active mode, and at a very atomic level, even electrons are moving and all that. So they are not absolutely at rest. So that is what is Sakriya, active. And it goes through manifestations, changes. Anekam, there is multiplicity. There will be diversity among similar effects. Two chairs that look similar, but a scientist will know it, that they are different at a molecular level. So there cannot be two chairs which are identically same. The layperson may say that, but not at a scientific level. Ashritam is dependency. Its existence depends upon its cause. Of course, it is not causeless, but it's very cause has to be there not only for its very birth, it is so much dependent upon it. So that is another term, Ashritam. So any effect which has these characteristics will be an effect. If something doesn't have these characteristics, that will not be an effect. Please remember that the inquiry is about Prakriti. So he is leading us to get to know the Prakriti, which is primary cause. So that is not an effect. That is a cause of everything, but that itself is not an effect. So that's why he has taught us, he's telling us what are the characteristics of an effect. Now 1.90 is relating the characteristics of effect with that of the cause. So characteristics of both cause and effect. Cause and effect bear, let me read it, Anjasyad abhedato va gun samanyat etastat siddhi pradhan vyapdeshadva. So again, there are three causes, three evidences he has taught us already, and now he is going to tell us that cause and effect and their characteristics and interrelationship can be studied through the three kind of evidences. And that's what he's trying to tell us here. Cause and effect bear characteristics as determined by either of the three evidences. Pratyaksh Praman, which were direct cognition, direct perception, I was using the word, direct perception, I should change here. It is clay as a cause gives rise to a earthen pitcher, which is an effect, as is commonly seen. So this is very much known to us. Human beings see it day in and day out. We we produce all kinds of worldly objects where a cause is required and that gives rise to an effect. And this is directly perceptible to us. We have the direct perception of this, and this is what is commonly seen. And their relationship, that pitcher can be made out of clay only. It cannot be made out of cotton wool, for example. Then we also use the Anuman inference characteristic, inference evidence, where something which is very subtle like Mahat and has manifestation functions, it is inferred that it is an effect of Prakriti. Because Mahat goes through multiplicity of our life experiences, so that must be an effect. That's what we discussed in the previous slide. So if that is an effect, it must be having a cause. that may not be perceptible to us, but we can make an inference out of that. So it is inferred that it is an effect of Prakriti, which is the cause of the Mahat, that has no such purpose. Prakriti itself doesn't give rise to those manifestations. Or clay and a pitcher are different. There is a difference. Though they are, clay has the effect within itself, but it is different from the pitcher. What way? Pitcher can hold water, but the clay cannot hold water. It can absorb water, but cannot hold for our use. So their functions are different, and that is seen very much that if I see a clay, I will make if I see a pitcher, other than pitcher, I will make an inference that it must have been made out of clay. And why was it made? Because it has a different purpose. Namely, it can hold water, the clay cannot hold water. In the same manner, I can say, I have an instrument, my Mahat, my Buddhi, which makes me go through all kinds of life experiences. So that is an effect, Mahat is an effect, because it goes through all the transient changes, and that must have a cause, and that cause is Prakriti. And then he's saying, we also get this idea from Shabda Pramana, namely the testimony. The Vedas describe the primordial state of matter. In Vedas, it's called with various names, Swadha, Maya, and etc. etc. So Kapil is now putting a number of arguments to a different channel and trying to convince us that there must be Prakriti. I am still 10 statements away, and we are almost done in an hour's time. I don't know. If I just read out these slides, then I can be over with Satkayavad. I will not read the originals. 1.3 gunas now. 1.91. Both cause and effect consist of three strands and lack consciousness. Also, they are objects to be known, manifest, etc. Prakriti has three strands, Sat, so does Mahat. So he is trying to establish Mahat and Prakriti. There is a specificity of this cause and effect. 1.92. Three gunas, namely Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, now he specifies their role. They exclusively correspond to happiness. His word is piti. This is apiti, pain, and moho for inertia. So vishad, he is using the term vishad. So happiness, pain, and inertia. And then in 193 he says, three gunas exhibit similar characteristics as well as dissimilar to one another. Similar in the sense, sattva gives rise to happiness, but then there are other possibilities. Sattva can give rise to minuteness, lightness, contentment, joy, pleasure, stability, buoyancy, etc. So it is dissimilar to Rajas and Tamas, but it has a long list of other similar experiences, so to say. Same, so is true with Rajas. Rajas is pain only, which is different, makes it dissimilar from Sattva and Tamas. But within Rajas, there can be possibilities of dynamism, grief, jealousy, thirst, desire, etc. Tamas is different from them because it is inertia and not happiness and pain, but it has sadharmya also, which is heaviness, sleep, dormancy, attachment, etc. So now the Prakriti is three strands and their different characteristics have been spelled out. 1.94 to 97. Mahat is different from Purush and Prakriti. Mahat, etc. are definitely an effect as a picture is. So somebody raised an objection. Could Mahat also not be a cause like Purush and Prakriti? Then Kapil is not accepting it and then giving further reasons. 1.95, because Mahat is bounded as a pitcher is. Pitcher is bounded, so Mahat is also bounded, And if something is bounded, it is not limitless and must be an effect. So this cannot be a primary cause like Purush and Prakriti. 1.96. Mahat and its effects, such as a pitcher, bears characteristics of its cause. Like pitcher has certain characteristics of clay. Same thing is there. Mahat is also exhibiting the characteristics of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, which is true with Buddhi. So that must be the characteristics of the Prakriti. 1.97. Mahat is limited in its power and strength. For instance, a pitcher has less possibilities than clay has. Once you make a pitcher, then you don't have all other options that clay could have made it possible. With a clay, you could have made other things also, a toy also for a child to play. But a pitcher is just a pitcher. So a number of options have been limited once you transform the clay to pitcher. In the same manner, Mahat has a limitation while Prakriti is unlimited. So he is offering reasons that Mahat cannot be a primary cause like Purush and Prakriti because it is an effect. Now, if somebody says if Mahat were not to be an effect, let's make it as a instead of Purush and Prakriti, there are three causes Purush, Prakriti, and Mahat. Then is it Purush or Prakriti? Now he says there are only two things conscious things or unconscious. If you say Mahat is independent, is it Purush or Prakriti? You have to decide. Is it conscious thing or unconscious thing? Only they are not effects. Since it lacks consciousness, it cannot be Purush and it goes through all kinds of myriads of transformations. It is not Prakriti. So he says that possibility is not there. 1.99. Could Mahat be treated as non-effect? That is a primary cause like Purush and Prakriti but different from them. Then we must accept that no third entity exists other than Purush and Prakriti, but Mahat does exist in it. So he's saying it is just a semantics because these are the only two contenders, and if you forcefully put a third one, it is just imaginary thing. It is either this or that. You are just having a semantics. You have a third term, and there is nothing that exists which is corresponding to that imaginary Mahat. So he just rules out that possibility. 1.100. Having established that Mahat is an effect, now an inquiry is made about its material cause. Math allows us to infer about Prakriti since an effect embodies the characteristics of its cause. Because in deep meditation, you can get awareness, discriminating knowledge of Mahat as Buddhi, but you cannot know Prakriti. So from there, from Mahat to Prakriti is by way of inference. 1.101. Mahat is an effect. It is linga because it is an effect. It can go back to its cause. That was the meaning of the word linga. An effect of threefold stand is knowable. Because this is knowable, this is vyakta. Vyakta is a term for something that can be theoretically known, though it is knowable only for a yogi in deep meditation. It must be an outcome of the unknowable, which is avyakt. That is what Prakriti is. Then finally he says effects of Prakriti justify to treat Prakriti as existent, though it is unknowable. Somebody is arguing, if it is unknowable, then what is how if something just cannot be known, then what is its relevance? So he says, yes, it is relevant because all the entire creation is effects of Prakriti. So that justify to treat Prakriti as existent. It does exist, even though theoretically it is unknowable for human beings. So that was his Satkayavad. I went a bit fast towards the later part. Today we have covered 67 to see wide discussion on evidences so that we get to know Purush and Prakriti. 69 to 71 was related to the bhog, and that bhog is due to the karma, and the karma we perform due to avivek, and that chain is broken if I get to know Purush and Prakriti in a discriminatory experiential manner. Then we discussed what is the Prakriti material cause, and then he has tried to convince us through his logical arguments of about 23 slides, 23 statements, that Mahat is an effect, that is what functions as our buddhi, and Prakriti is its ultimate primary cause, though we may never be able to know it. Thank you for attention. Sorry I exceeded by about 10 minutes, but thank you for attention. See you next week. Hello.